Hello, and welcome to the Zandra the Witch podcast. I have been craving a little cozy, just hanging out podcast to listen to for my personal needs. But here's the thing, podcasts are so niche these days that you're either delving into a specific subject, which I'm all about, but sometimes I don't want to be just in a specific subject. I want to be just exploring the vastness of being human and to go on tangents around that and not like get so dialed in. And a lot of the cozier podcasts are more spiritually bypassing and ignoring systemic issues in the world. And that also, frankly, isn't cozy for me. I can't relax in that environment. And so, but then on the other hand, the podcasts that are more values aligned tend to be heavier or deeper or transformative. And there's a time and a place that I am all about that. But then sometimes I just want to lie down and relax and be. And I haven't found something to listen to when I'm in those moods. So I am creating that today. And if you know a show that fits my criteria, then by all means, leave a comment and let me know. But today, I just wanted to tell you about my day. Hello, I'm Zandra Sunglum Burns, the witch. And how cool is this? How cool is this shadow in the back? I thought I'd just podcast to you on my floor, but also record a video because why not? I can put this on YouTube as well as my Substack podcast feed. So I had a few things that I wanted to share with you. So first of all is a mental health practice that I have that I call the emoji SOS. So with a few of my best friends, we've designated an emoji that means SOS. I'm having a rough day, possibly too rough a day to be able to compose that in a text of like, hi, I'm just not feeling, like if you can relate, then you might know the feeling of being in the place where you know that you want to ask for help, but it's from that state, like it's so bad that it's not necessarily so bad, but it's like exhausting for your mind to like just spring that on somebody. So what I recommend doing, what works for me personally, is to have a conversation with some of your closest trusted people about, hey, this is sometimes how I feel, or sometimes it comes up like in retrospect where they're like, how were you? How were you? How are you doing? And I'm like, well, last week was tricky. And they're like, well, I wish you'd reached out to me sooner. And so we've created this communication system that enables that. So it's actually kind of fun to pick out a charm for each friend. They've all picked theirs out for me, actually. And I just drop that emoji and get something nice in exchange. So for one of my friends, it was like, oh no, I'm so sorry. How are you doing? Feel free to leave me a voice message. I'm free for the next couple of hours to listen to it. And then another friend of mine is a Capricorn and always gives me like a little template of like, you should do this. And yesterday's, hers was, you need to make yourself a nice herbal tea and watch your favorite episode of Gossip Girl. And I was like, okay. And this was actually really fun because I was out when I got her message, and then my mind got to focus on what is my favorite episode of Gossip Girl. That's a really good question because Gossip Girl isn't really a episode by episode favorite show. And that is a good thing because so much is going on in each episode. The characters are really what it's all about. And because there's so many storylines that are going on in the different characters' lives, it's hard to remember like what is what is like what are all of those storylines in one episode. I'm just like a little bit uncomfortable the way that I'm sitting because I'm trying to like talk to the camera. Here, we're gonna get out my magic box. This is my goddess altar. This is my magic box, and I'm gonna put this laptop on the magic box. You know what? I'm gonna lie down. We're gonna chat like this. Okay. Oh, that's so much better. All right. So some contenders for my favorite episode of Gossip Girl. This is so fun. This is what one of my best friends when I was a teenager, and I called this sleepover pose. So now we're doing sleepover pose to talk about Blair's slumber party. That's a contender. When she has the like SAT studying session, that I just love that. And my probably favorite episode ever is the one where Jenny puts on the gorilla fashion show and she crashes the big like white tie gala and with her really cool fashion designs. That one's really good as well. But I've seen a lot of those in my weekly rewatch, so I paint my nails and I watch Gossip Girl every week. And so I've seen all of those earlier favorites. So I skipped ahead and watched the Paris episode, which I really enjoyed. I think it's season 4, episode 1. I just have this vision of Blair with her afternoon tea outside in the summer in Paris. And I at one point, what was that website called? There was a website that like tracked your music listens. Was it Last FM? I was the top listener for Austin, whose song Petite Petite was in that episode of Gossip Girl. They had a few songs in that episode, and I just loved listening to those songs so much, more than anybody else, apparently. Now I'm thinking about how did Last FM work? I don't even remember, but that was a time. So here are my thoughts on the Paris episode of Gossip Girl, because we went in with the premise of I'm going to cheer myself up by watching something that is a potential candidate for my favorite episode of Gossip Girl. I have this nostalgic remembrance of the outfits, the cityscapes, the sounds of this episode of Gossip Girl. What I didn't remember is that Blair is miserable during this episode. And you know what? A lot of Gossip Girl succeeds because Blair is so miserable. And yet we love her. And yet, something else that I noticed, she and Serena are both, they're white women. They're benefiting from white supremacy, but they're also being taken down by it. So, in this episode, Blair is being overly competitive. This is the one where she gets the date with the prince, but then he makes it a double date, and he invites Serena onto the double date, and then he does the ruse to test Blair's morals about, he pretends to be the driver and makes his driver pretend to be the prince, and then Serena is going on the date with the prince, and this just is too much for Blair, who is like ultra competitive, and she's playing into this system that requires people to take each other down in order to get ahead. And ultimately, she's like, this happens to her so many times. She's thwarted so many times for relying on that system that ultimately fails her. But something that I found really interesting about this episode is that I remembered it as like visually, aesthetically, Blair's living her best life. She's looking beautiful in Paris, and she's so well dressed, and she's I always think about like when I go out for an iced tea by myself, I think of her sitting outside in the garden with her tiered tray of treats, of like She is just so confident doing that by herself and receiving that for herself. But she was miserable the whole time. And then the main part that I misremembered is how she's standing in front of the painting, and like it's a really romantic moment. The prince comes up and finds her. And by the way, if you know Gossip Girl really well, you know that the prince turns out to be a terrible person. But I believe that that wasn't written into his character until like a season later, or maybe it was at the season uh, mid-season finale, because the seasons are huge in Gossip Girl. Um, so we're gonna put that aside, and or it's not even about him. It's about her getting her wish of, if I just stand in front of my favorite painting, or if I read my favorite novels out in the park, like I'll have this really romantic meet cute. And it happens eventually. But what we forget is that she was trying to do that. She was like showing up all summer to let these um, romantic happenings occur. Like we see we remember the part that worked, but she was showing up every day. And I just find that really interesting. She's manifesting really hard, and she was like, I feel like people weren't talking about this back then, but she was doing the like act as if, go stand in front of the painting. We're like grinding for the dream. And um, I just found that really funny and sad. It's sad. It's like Blair is tragic. So that's all for now. That is my cozy little cozy little chat about what's real, what's happening today. I hope that was fun. I hope that was something that was of value to you, and I hope I'm not the only one who finds it actually comfortable to talk about dismantling white supremacy, even in a cozy chat. Like I find that a cozy thought. I find it a cozy thought to like be like, oh, hold on, this thing that I love, it's actually about, in Gossip Girl, this show that I love, which is about um, privileged white people. Part of what appeals to it about me, part of what appeals to me about it is that it lets those characters be flawed, and it shows where their flaws come from. In this episode, I believe Blair is like 21, but in the earlier seasons, they're teenagers, and you see the pressure to conform and to connive, and all of the trauma that is baked into these behaviors. And what's fun about Blair is that she embraces it, and she fails constantly. So that's something, constantly and glamorously. Hello. This is a segment I like to call the overnight addendum, in which I schedule my Substack post to go out a day later. And then in that interim, between hitting schedule and it actually going live and being released unto the world, I'm like overthinking, or just thinking, just thinking about what I've said, what landed in the moment, and what needs to be said as well. I have a snack because I'm about to watch a video. And I'm like, wait a minute. Louis has been a problem since the beginning. We have the evidence right here. So this is the power of how the narrative is framed, where it's like Blair Waldorf, this anti-hero, this villainous woman who has fallen prey to this trap. But like, an actual romantic interest shouldn't be trapping her in the first place. He shouldn't be setting up this test in the first place. Both of them should have walked out of there at the reveal and been like, yeah, nice try, dude. That was not cool. But no, they're just like having to cater to the whims of this guy as like he's the catch. Obviously, Blair's more interesting than he is, but I got there. Better late than never. Sorry, Blair. I'm also realizing that I was like, I'm not in the mood to talk about something that's like super specific. And then I delved into this one episode of Gossip Girl, but the point is I don't really want to start a Gossip Girl recap podcast and like be all about that. So every now and then I'm just gonna go off on one of the episodes that I happen to be watching while I'm painting my nails or on a mental health day. Just so you're aware of what to expect here. Okay, I think that's everything. Enjoy the show. Finally, I want to share a couple things that I'm up to that you can partake in if you feel so called. I am leading a Lord of the Rings Sorcerer Circle across 2026. We're reading The Hobbit and the entire Lord of the Rings series and going on a journey ourselves. We're taking the magic seriously. The many meetings are going to be circles, it's more than a book club. It is an opportunity to practice our magic, to define what it means to bring the ring to Mordor as a collective, and to define our own roles in divine leadership as we resonate with certain characters, certain aspects of this story. Let that guide how we move through our own society. And it is the end of the year, so if you are looking for a tool for planning your year, look no further than Lunar Logbook, a moon planner that I designed by hand. And I emphasize that because it is designed for you to doodle and create around the margins of with your hand. So it is a volume in which, I have one right here because I just finished my first one. It is this lovely purple volume, and look, I have just I'm not investing in camera equipment, so this is just my laptop, but this is my Lunar Logbook, and in it you have space for moon rituals and for telling the story of your life chapter by chapter in alignment with lunar phases, because we are used to operating on the solar calendar. That is all well and good and worth our attention, but there's a little attention paid to the moon. And so by just making that tweak to honor the first day of the new moon cycle as the first day of your month, you'll just notice that aligning with nature's cycles gives you that extra boost towards aligning with your own natural self and being. So lunarlogbook.com, you can find it on Etsy, and the link to the Sorcerer Circle will be in the description as well. But you can also just reach out to me, zandrathewitch@gmail.com, and I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time.